All right, we are live on YouTube and good to go.
Okay, we will call this meeting of the College Place Parks, Arbor, and Recreation Board meeting to order July 26, 2024. Athen, could you do a roll call?
Commissioner Fry,
Here?
Commissioner Bissell,
Present.
Commissioner Bicknell. Commissioner Bicknell is absent. Commissioner Green
Here.
and Commissioner Thiel has asked to be excused today. We do have a quorum.
Excellent. Okay, first I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Okay, second?
Second.
Then moved and seconded. All in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All right, we'll move on. Can you scroll down for me? Do we have public comment? Do we have any public comment this morning?
We did not receive any, and we do not have any public attendees, so no.
Okay. All right, thank you. Right. So we've got a couple reports this morning, a presentation and a report from John. John, Parks Plan update progress.
Thank you. Yes. So we had a survey out, and that has closed. And we also, staff and JUB, we had a booth at the farmers market on July 11th, and we had quite a few visitors inquiring about the park plan of the survey that was out there, and we received some additional feedback. And so we have JUB, our consultants here, Justin Bearlocker and Allison Tompkins, to provide us an overview of the results of the survey and some additional feedback from the farmers market event. So with that, I'll turn it over to either Allison or Justin.
All right, thank you, John. I'll go ahead and get started and go over the overview, and then Allison will kind of discuss next steps and where we're going to go from here. As John mentioned, we did have the survey. It opened on May 21st and went through June 19th. We had multiple notifications with flyers posted at City Hall, postcards, social media, and other avenues to promote the survey and get comments. We did receive 150 responses to the survey. Comparing it with past park plan, it was about the same responses as that one received as well. And then going through the questions, I saw that John had put up the posters that were created for the farmers market that kind of did a summary. We've also put together our summary, and that was included in the packet as well. And I'll just kind of go through that quickly, and then we can go over additional questions you might have. But overall, we've compared the answers to these questions to the previous survey that was done for the last park plan update, and the survey results were pretty similar as we went through. As you'll see here for question 1, the top 5 items are restrooms, paths, shade cover, natural open space, and community event areas. This was also kind of discussed verbally at the farmers market as well from residents. The bathrooms comment, it seems like it was more of use of bathrooms, not actually and having bathrooms at parks, but like Kiwanis Park and Lions Park, is our understanding that people would like them open longer through the year. And John can confirm that as well, but especially when people are going to play pickleball and other activities in the winter months when those parks might be closed, is there any other options for that? So If we move on, question 2, we asked about how often people attend the parks. Overwhelmingly, 61% of the people use the park at least once a week, if not more. And then if we go to question 3, the most used parks are Lions Park and Kiwanis Park. Those are larger multi-use parks, so it does make sense that those are used more often. Question 4 went over the quality of the conditions of the park. I'm not going to get into that too much, but overall, everybody who responded that used the parks, they had good responses with the quality of the park. There wasn't any overwhelmingly issues that people have at this point. Question 5 went over whether or not people use the school district facilities. Mostly they don't. And if we go into question 6, if they were available, would they use it? It was 62% said they would use it regularly if they're available. So it almost and these comments were pretty similar to the last one as well. So should the city offer recreational programs? 60% of people would like that to happen. There's a wordle here that kind of identifies the main programs that the people identified that they would like to have. Fitness was the highest rated one, along with some youth leagues and things like that. Safety of the parks, relatively, most people are safe at the parks. The only real negative comment was poor lighting conditions and loitering at Lions Park, but maybe that will be improved with the improvements at Lions Park that are being made now. Paying for reservation fee. This one was interesting. At the last survey, the responses were opposite. So last time they said no, they didn't want to pay to reserve a spot for a picnic shelter. This time that people are more willing to. So I don't know if that's due to activity at the parks or increase in activity or not, but it's something to kind of look into. Question 10, kinds of new parks. This answer is similar to the last survey, and multi-use parks is the highest. Got the most responses, and I would say that Lions Park and Kiwanis Park are kind of similar to like a multi-use park for that. This question just went over the types of trails. Most people want to have a paved pathway if trails are created. A paved pathway that all users could use was preferred. The next question, 12, went over when people did the survey, they could identify where they lived. And so this identifies the location of where each survey respondent lived. We got a good variety throughout the city. It was mixed all over, so I think we got a good overall response from the survey from different neighborhoods. Question 13 just went over how people heard about the survey. Mostly they got it from the city newsletter, Facebook, and direct mail. So those were the three main three main ways. And question 14, we asked where people preferred a new park. As part of our scope of work, we're looking at potentially 3 new park locations in growing areas. And that would be near the airport, which there was a lot of responses there for a new park. And then also in the southeast area, east of College Avenue and south of Majorna, which there's some new development potential out there. And that got a lot of responses as well. And so we will continue to look at those areas as and put up some ideas of what could happen there. And that was really the conclusion of the results. As I said, most needs were restrooms, trails and bike paths, shade cover at the parks. New park types, again, was a community park, multi-use park, and trails. So I'll kind of open it up to the board if you have any questions regarding the survey, the responses, and so forth.
Anything that surprised you in those results, Justin?
No, just because they were consistent with what we received before, and so that just confirmed that the community comments were the same and moving forward. So there was, and it was great to meet with people at the farmers market, because we got to get a better feel of what people liked and didn't like about the parks. And overwhelmingly, most people do really like the parks and the amenities.
Is it pretty typical that they want paved pathways? Is that a pretty common result in these surveys?
I'll leave that to Allison. Knows
Yeah, I
better.
was kind of making facial expressions.
So
I think that varies. In some areas, you have a big, like mountain bike following, and they don't necessarily want paved pathways. In other areas, they have plenty of pathways, but there are a lot of missing connections, and they care more about, improving short sections to some degree so you can make some connections and have looped routes and options.
mhm.
So not necessarily. I think
Some of that comment is like what Allison said, is getting connections to the park. There were some comments of having transit stops near the parks to make it a little easier to get there. And then just, yeah, that connection to and throughout the city.
Any other questions, Leif, Jordan?
Well, initially, one of the things I found interesting was the high number of people looking for restrooms. You know, when we had put some information out with the recent updated plans for Veterans Park to the neighborhood there were a lot of people that had concerns about the idea for a restroom. And of course, I think parents of young children appreciate it, but at the same time, there's always that concern of what kind of traffic it might bring into a neighborhood if that resource is available. So seeing it as like the #1 priority was a little surprising, but also I think understanding the clarification of what that meant to some people in terms of use around the pickleball courts and hours and also the seasonal adjustments. So that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I can provide a little bit of feedback on where the city's heading in regard to securing restrooms. We are working with JEB engineers on a citywide plan to install card lock systems on all of our facilities, including the restrooms. In fact, we're trying to tie that work with JEB with the Lions Park project, so those restrooms would have the electronic door locks on them, and that would be programmable so that when the park's closed, you can lock them off. Obviously, if somebody's still in there, if they were in there before they lock off, then, you know, you have that, but you can still get out, but you can't get back in once the door latches again. So that will help with any concern about, you know, certain populations maybe trying to use that as a place to sleep overnight or something like that. The reason why our restrooms are not open during the winter months is because they're not weatherized to handle cold temperatures. So we actually we winterize them for the winter months. They're not insulated buildings. And so it would be really challenging to keep them open year round. But if there are key areas that, like, for instance, where the pickleball courts are, that's where we frequently get requests from those users, because they will use them year round when the weather permits. So one thing we might want to consider is possibly during the winter months, you know, having an outhouse there that's available. As an alternative for those certain months, we could just place something like that in the parking lot seasonally. So
it does seem like a decent stopgap to have something available. I also wonder, you know, as we continue to develop parks and build new restrooms, if that shouldn't be something we prioritize. It's something that's come up quite a bit throughout the city of Walla Walla as well. You know, through the downtown corridor, there's really almost nothing when it, you know, I think the new restroom likely will be open now, but previously you hit winter and there's just nowhere to go if you're not within a, you know, business that's down there, which is difficult. So that's seems like a good thing to be working towards as we can. Obviously it adds expense to the projects, but I think it'd be worthwhile.
I really don't have much to add or say, except that if there's a way we could annex perhaps Bennington Lake, we would solve a lot of problems. But I think that profile though is interesting. What happens at Bennington Lake addresses a lot of the questions or the preferences that people seem to have. And my hope is that what we end up with across from the school will really bridge some of that. Where we have the natural setting and trails, perhaps paved and unpaved. Maybe there's something that could be done. And then water seems to be an enhancement for almost all park activities. So if there's a way that can be integrated or highlighted or made more of a connection point with the public, I think that would be very appreciated.
to echo Mr. Bissell's comments on water, I think at least 3 times when we were at the park for the farmers market, we heard the comment of we should have fountains in our parks. Not like drinking fountains, but like a water feature fountain. And so I thought that was interesting. I don't remember hearing that so much the last time we had a survey and we're seeking ideas.
I wonder if the addition of the water features to the Plaza Park downtown in Walla Walla maybe has made people think about that a bit more, because it certainly does a lot to change the atmosphere when you're just hanging around and there's not a lot going on. So
we can explore some options for that when we are putting together the concepts later in this planning process. I think that's a great idea and something we could highlight.
Now, from what you can observe from downtown Walla Walla, public art also plays a role, I think, in creating the sense of space. And I don't know, maybe there's a way to integrate public art and water features in a way that's appropriate. I don't know. You guys, the park experts, will hopefully have a few pointers for us there.
If Justin's done going through the summary, I can speak briefly to the remaining project schedule. So we did just finish last month having a public outreach event, which was at the farmer's market. And what's coming up next is drafting goals and objectives for the plan. We want to confirm a date that we can meet with the PAR board to review draft goals and objectives. And so we had tentatively targeted your August meeting for that, but I'm not I guess that's my question in part. One of them is whether you do intend to meet in August, and if not, will there be an opportunity for us to send you the material for your review to get your feedback on that? But that's what we have coming up next. We've got this, we've taken in this public, the survey results, the public input, and that will help us frame the draft goals and objectives. And we don't want to get too much farther with those goals and objectives without getting your feedback on them as well. So, question then for the PAR board. Is there a good time in August that we could review draft goals and objectives with you?
I believe the next scheduled meeting is the 27th of September. Is that correct?
That's what I'm seeing. I don't see a scheduled August meeting. Boy, we usually what are the fourth Fridays, what our meetings are typically. I would tell you I would be out. That's the day before school. That's when staff's come back, so I would be jammed up, but maybe perhaps others. I could go earlier.
And if we didn't meet, I just to maybe add some flexibility to it, if we didn't meet with you in this type of setting, possibly we could send you the drafts in a digital document, and you could mark those up and return them to John and us, and we could work through it that way as well. There's some benefit to having an open discussion where anyone can speak up and comment and respond and so forth.
Sure.
What about the idea of August 23rd? Is there conflict there at all?
That works okay for me.
Like I said, for that date, for me, a really good possibility that I wouldn't be available.
The 23rd or the 30th?
No, the 23rd.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the fourth Friday in August, and that's right before we launch.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, I was just thinking it was the last Friday of the month. So what about the 30th then?
I could, yeah. Actually, that's fair day, so that's a non-school day.
I think that's the Friday before Labor Day, so I don't know if that makes it a deal breaker for anyone.
Would it work the 16th for you, Jim?
I will be gone that week if that matters. I don't know that it does, but I would kind of like to be here for that part of it. But
I'm in the Tri-Cities that morning, so if we stay with a Friday.
All right, well then you can just meet over at JUB's office and
Okay, sounds like a plan. I don't want to mean to be the troublemaker.
Yeah, I'll be out that week. So
how soon will you be prepared, Allison?
With the goals and objectives, I think we could do the 16th. I wouldn't want to make it a shorter turnaround than that. 23rd or 30th is probably ideal, somewhere in there. We're not too excited about the idea of pushing it into September, because what we're going to be working on in conjunction with goals and objectives is the inventory and analysis, which is all the information gathering and synthesizing that information and starting to develop, ideas, and, where we're doing more of a SWOT analysis, your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, and how those play into your future project goals. So we are trying to stick by an end of the year schedule for adoption. That gets tied into a little bit with the RCO funding, which is a kind of another mini discussion in itself. You can extend the deadline for your updated, because my understanding is you need to get your master plan updated by the end of the year so that you stay eligible for the RCO funding. Is that right, John?
Well, I think we're current for this application period that we're in right now, so I don't
Okay.
think that there's any major threats there.
Okay, you can apply for an extension, that's an option. And that would give you some wiggle room if, you know, when you have holidays coming up, meetings sometimes get shifted and so forth. So requesting an extension might be a good option to give you that flexibility, so you're not as tied in to trying to get your plan adopted. But we were more or less working backwards from a December adoption target to get the project tasks accomplished. And so what that would look like is getting the goals and objectives done, because they basically set the foundation for everything else. And then we begin the inventory at the same time, which is all the information gathering. That moves into the analysis. And based on that analysis, we start identifying capital improvement projects. And then the last piece to that is, you know, possible funding options and prioritization of those projects. Plug everything into a planning document, make it look good, and get it out to the PAR board and the public and then council for adoption. So there's kind of, I mean, hopefully at the end there aren't very many major changes, but there is a timeline turnaround for your public hearing process, the notification. We expect some minor revisions, you know, a little time to get those fixed and back to you and so forth. So it's about, what is that? It's about 4 or 5 months that we would have left if we're targeting December for adoption. So if we
What
could
if
get
we-
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
So what if we targeted September 6th? That still gives us 3 weeks ahead of the next September meeting, but maybe gets us out of the thick of some of the other stuff. Just another suggestion.
Yeah, that could be possible.
Is the 23rd bad for anybody else?
It's
Okay.
6 of one, a half dozen of another for me, so.
Let's go the 23rd. I'll work hard to get there. You know, perhaps Norman, that works for Norman too. You can get a quorum. And then I think maybe Allison, it'd be good to if you can get those out a week in advance to us, so we do have some time to gather our comments. And if we can stick to an hour meeting, for sure, I can squeeze that in. I'm backed up against something that morning, but that I'm nervous that I got to get there. But we can.
Okay.
Is that okay with you guys?
Bit
Jordan, are you
concise.
okay with that? And Leif?
That works for me. And I think
Okay.
it seems like since we weren't planning to have a meeting, we can pretty much just keep this a single item.
Yeah, we
agenda.
can make sure that there's no other agenda items on there, and there isn't anything pressing that would need to go before you that I'm aware of. So,
Okay, let's plan that on that then.
Okay. Well, that was the bulk of what I had to talk about, was what the rest of the project would look like through to completion. So again, we're kind of the building blocks, the foundation of a planning document is your goals and objectives, because they set the stage for your projects and your implementation and your prioritization. And those steps will carry us right through to December for adoption. So we'll continue to work with John as well on finalizing the other dates. Like I said, I know things get flexible around holidays, so we'll work around those. Do you have any questions about, you know, details or anything, or what we do at each of those steps?
Hear any?
I don't hear anything.
no, I think we're good in this room. Thank you, Allison and Justin for your hard work so far on this and attending this meeting. I appreciate it. And Lizzie too. She was at the farmer's market with Justin and I, so.
Yeah.
It was hot that day. It was 101 maybe. We had shade except on our feet. I think I got a sunburn on my tops of my feet.
All right, excellent. Well, again, yes,
Thank
thank
you.
you for being here and thank you for sharing that information. We'll see you August 23rd then. All right, move on to Lions Park updates. John.
Yeah, so there are pictures and maybe we can just throw them up there just to kind of highlight some of the progress that's been made. So most of the work that has been done since we started, it was obviously demolition of a number of structures in the park. And then stormwater has been a huge component. If you recall, there's that stormwater line that it's a big, I think it's like a 18-inch stormwater line that comes from the 12th Street and all those public streets up in the neighborhood to the south of the park, and it dumps right into the pond. And so that was a big part of the project, or is a big part of the project, funded through ecology, as connecting onto that stormwater line and getting it run over into these big, huge vaults that will treat it before releasing that stormwater into Garrison Creek. So in the photos, I think there's a couple of them, or at least one that I've in there that has a big, the vault, the big stormwater treatment. There's two of them. There's one on each side of the creek in the parking lot. Big major milestones that we've reached so far is beginning on July 15th, began the in-water work window through Fish and Wildlife. And that goes through September 30th. So last week they diverted the creek into a pipe. And that we've been drawing down the pond for in June. And the last piece of that puzzle was to divert the creek. So that's happened. So they've removed the weir, which was that little dam at the West Bridge. So that's gone. That got taken out to this week. And they're going to begin removing the pathway around the pond and also removing all of that material in the pond, all that sediment from over the years. We've had a number of tree removals along the bank that were that happened. We're in approval process on submittals for still on the splash pad. There was a little bit of delay in the approval of those submittals because there is a BABA requirement, which is buy America. So buy, like purchase America, buy America. It's a weird acronym they came up with, but the original plans for the splash pad were it was a company out of Texas. But the contractor is pushing for their submittal was for a company out of Canada. And so that just, we had to get approval. There's a certain percentage of the project that can be de minimis, meaning that it doesn't, you don't have to abide by the BABA regulations. So we got clarification from RCO that we're cleared to proceed with that. So now we're just in the process of reviewing the splash pad submittal in greater detail now that we know that we can go that direction. Since we weren't familiar with that company, the contractor had to supply us with some locations where it's been installed. There's a number of them up in Spokane Valley, and the city of Spokane both have used this product. So fortunately, our architect that designed the landscaping and splash pad is from the Spokane area. So he is doing some research, and we should have a go ahead on that. Hopefully today we'll have some information on what the feedback is he's gotten from the Spokane market. But things seem to be on track. We're a little concerned. Doesn't seem to be moving as fast as we were hoping, but there's the in-water work. There's a lot to be done there, and now that we have to go ahead to do that work, that's good. So it's kind of where we're at. Yeah, there's the pond. There was I think a blue heron that's been hanging out in there, getting the fish that he or she has had easy access to. And you can see all of that it's starting to dry out, and you can walk on a lot of that, but before it was dry, it was actually kind of dangerous. You would sink down into it quite a bit. And those pictures were from last week, I think. They've since pumped out the remaining water. I think it's drying. So yeah, there's the stormwater facility. Any questions?
I'm curious, how deep is that sediment that's built up in there?
Well, we don't know exactly, but we have been told that when they dredged it in the early 90s, they got down to 17 feet. And the pond at its deepest is probably about 2 feet deep. So, and all of that, but we won't be going that deep. I can't remember exactly how deep we are going, but we have to remove all of that material and put back a good base. So there's a lot of, we'll be able to reuse some of it when we reform the stream bed. We're taking sediment out of that area too. But we have to get some compacted soils back in there, because we want to make sure that when the water flows back in that channel, it just doesn't go back into the ground. So we'll bring some of that sediment will actually get placed back in there, I think, or we'll have some fines in there with the rocks and stuff. So.
Hey, John, I wonder if, I don't know if the August newsletter's gone out, but I wonder if it might be smart to put out a communication, because obviously people can't see what's going on behind the fence, and always sort of the perception is nothing's happening. I don't see tractors moving. I don't see people running around, and so I wonder if it might be good if it's still timely to put out something just about that, sort of the really how difficult and the maneuvering of the water to protect that ecosystem as part of communication, so folks know it's moving along and this is a process and this is what we're doing. Is that something that maybe could get thrown in there?
The August newsletter was printed yesterday.
Okay, well, that's kind of the story of my life. A day late, dollar short.
Right.
Okay,
Me too.
I always have good ideas after
we
it's time.
could probably get an update. It would be good to get an update in the September one. That's a good idea.
I'm sure that's what I meant, September.
Yes,
Yeah.
right.
Even just as social media updates and things wouldn't be a bad idea. I know Mike's done a couple at least early in the process, and so doing something just kind of saying what's going on that's not visible would be a great thing.
Yeah, good idea.
That's good. That's a good idea too. We could do that out actually where the pond is, or where the pond was.
Get him some boots and get him out in the sludge.
Right.
Yeah, I just think keeping people intrigued and interested and excited versus frustrated and like, is this ever going to get done? And is probably less phone calls down to City Hall saying, well, when is this thing going to be done?
It hasn't been too bad. We did allow the contractors it's citywide when we were under the heat advisory that they could start at 6 a.m. instead of 7 a.m. Well, the Walla did it. The Tri-Cities was doing it too. And so we got at least one complaint from people working at 6 with the tractors and stuff, but
Yeah, I can hear him from my house, but I didn't call.
I know it was your wife.
Yeah, right. It was my 15-year-old who likes to sleep till noon. Anything before then. All right. Any
Yeah,
other?
I wonder, I was just going to mention one other thing that might help. A lot of your stakeholders, I believe, attend the farmers market. People who are more tuned in to what's going on because they may have attended the farmers market at that location. It may be kind of interesting just to have someone do a video blog that could be shown perhaps at that event, or some information at farmers market, so people kind of connect with that. And those could also build a library on YouTube, have a QR code. People can get updates, maybe post it there at the site. Also have it at the farmers market, and you could publish the QR code in the newsletter, so that people see an update maybe once or twice a month, and they can kind of connect with what's happening, see a little bit of what's on the ground, look at it on their computer. That, I think communication is really good. I know, Jim, you and I have talked about, building a public understanding of what you're up to, because there are times when, you have an ask or something that you want for people to participate in. And if you don't make those contributions, people sort of like lose connection with it or get frustrated. So those are some easy media connections that could be made with just a little bit of effort, but suggestion. I do think, though, that your farmers market people, those are the ones that are really going to be most interested.
Any other comments for John?
No, I don't have any other updates. Oh, I guess I could give you I'm not really that involved in the Veterans Park project, but I do know that we have 60% plans, and we're required to do an environmental review, so go through SEPA and public comment period on that. So that will probably begin in September, probably September, because of just the scheduling of things. But and I imagine I'm not sure when they're going to bring that back to you guys to see those 60% plans, but we won't do it in August, obviously, because we want to focus on the park plan. But that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, Leif or Jordan? Okay, hearing none, we will wrap things up. So we will meet Friday, August 23rd at 8 a.m. with JUB giving us the information to look over, hopefully about a week in advance, and then we'll see you then. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Move second.
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All right, we are adjourned. See you later, everybody.